All right, so are you ready for this?
Always. What do we have?
Today we're diving into some pretty intense relationship stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all about loving someone you actually, kind of hate,
Hmm. That's a good one.
right? I mean, how do you even begin to wrap your head around that?
Well, it's definitely a topic that can bring up some strong emotions for people.
For sure.
But that's why we're here to dive deep.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're taking our cues from Loving the Unlovely.
Okay.
It's a chapter from the Five Love Languages.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
And let me tell you, the opening story of this chapter is, well, let's just say it grabs your attention.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big time.
I'm intrigued. Paint me a picture.
All right, so imagine this
Okay.
beautiful garden,
All right.
sunny day, birds chirping.
Sounds nice.
But then, out of nowhere, someone pops the question, is it even possible to love someone you hate?
Whoa, that took a turn.
Right. Talk about a mood killer.
Definitely not your typical garden party chatter.
Not at all. And the woman asking this question, her name is Anne.
Huh.
She's clearly in a lot of pain, struggling in her marriage, reaching out for, I don't know, a lifeline.
Yeah, you can feel the desperation in that question, can't you? Like she's searching for any glimmer of hope.
Totally, and that's where this idea of the unlovely comes
Yeah,
in.
the unlovely, huh?
Yeah, the chapter doesn't shy away from the fact that sometimes the people closest to us, the ones who are supposed to make us feel loved,
Right.
they can trigger feelings that are, well, the exact opposite of love.
Absolutely. Sometimes those relationships can be the most challenging ones.
And for Anne, her husband Glenn, he's painted as pretty unlovable, to put it mildly.
Oh.
Yeah, she describes him as critical, judgmental, totally unwilling to put in any effort.
Oof. Sounds like a recipe for resentment.
You can say that again. It's like her love tank is completely bone dry.
Ah, yes, the love tank.
Right. I feel like that's a good place to kind of explain that concept.
Definitely. Not everyone might be familiar with that metaphor.
For sure. The author uses this idea of a love tank
Yeah.
to explain our emotional needs in relationships.
Okay, I like it.
So think of your emotional well-being like a car's gas tank.
Okay.
Acts of love, especially in the language you understand,
Right.
that's what fills up your tank. But when it's empty, when you're running on fumes,
Yeah.
that's when negativity and resentment take over.
Oh, it makes total sense.
So in Anne's case, her tank is empty. She feels completely unloved,
Right.
and she's like at her breaking point.
Okay, so what happens next? Does she just throw in the towel?
Well, that's where the author throws her a bit of a curveball.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's this like 6-month experiment.
6 months. That's a commitment.
It's pretty radical, maybe even a little counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm listening.
So instead of focusing on her own hurt feelings, her own unmet needs,
Right.
she's challenged to completely shift her focus to Glenn.
Wait, so she's the one feeling unloved, but she's supposed to focus on loving him.
Yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. It does go against what we usually think about self-care and all that.
But that's the gist of it.
Wow, so what does that even look like? How's she supposed to, love someone she's feeling so much resentment towards?
Well, the key here is understanding Glenn's primary love language.
Oh, the love languages.
Right. And from the sounds of it, his is physical touch.
Okay.
Maybe with words of affirmation as a secondary.
Interesting combo.
So Anne commits to actively speaking those languages,
Yeah.
even if it feels, forced or insincere at first.
Wow. So even if she doesn't really feel it.
Exactly. And this is where I think things get really interesting because it raises questions about authenticity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, is she basically being asked to fake it till she makes it?
That's a good question. I mean, how genuine can it be if she's not actually feeling those loving feelings?
Right. But the author argues that it's not so much about faking feelings
Okay.
as it is about choosing to act lovingly, regardless of how you're feeling in the moment.
Interesting. So it's more about the action than the feeling.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that love is a verb, an action.
Okay. Love as an action, not just an emotion.
It's not just a passive emotion, it's something you do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So even though her tank's empty, she's trying to fill his tank, hoping he'll maybe start to do the same for her.
Exactly. And it's important to note that this whole experiment is deeply rooted in Anne's faith.
Okay.
The idea of loving your enemies,
Right.
that's a central part of her motivation.
That makes sense.
But the author also links it to a more universal principle. Give, and it will be given to you.
That's an interesting connection.
Right, because it suggests there's this sort of like universal law of reciprocity at play.
It does, doesn't it?
All right.
Like if we put good out into the world, it'll eventually come back to us.
Exactly. And while there are no guarantees, especially in messy relationships like this one,
Right, relationships are complicated.
the idea is that by shifting our focus
Yeah.
from what we're not getting to what we can give,
Hmm.
we might just create this ripple effect that leads to positive change.
I like that. So it's about taking control of what we can control, which is our own actions.
Right. And this is all very theoretical,
Yeah.
but I'm sure our listener is like on the edge of their seat wondering, okay, what does this experiment actually look like?
Right. How does this loving the unlovely thing actually play out in real life?
So buckle up because things are about to get even more interesting.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me more. So here's the kicker. Glenn never actually goes to counseling with Anne.
Oh, wow, seriously. That's got to be a major obstacle.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, how do you even do this experiment if only one person is on board?
Well, that's the thing about Anne, her commitment to this experiment, and maybe her faith too, it really pushed her to keep going.
Huh. So she just decides to go it alone.
Pretty much. And what's amazing is that even without Glenn actively participating, their relationship starts to change.
Really? Just from Anne changing her approach. Wow, that's pretty wild.
It is, right? So it wasn't like an overnight transformation or anything. But Anne starts to notice Glenn becoming more responsive.
Responsive in what way?
Well, he begins to reciprocate her efforts, though maybe not always in the way she'd prefer.
I see. So he's not exactly like reading her mind and showering her with affection.
Not quite, but there's definitely a shift. And get this, he even starts showing some interest in the love languages concept himself.
Oh, wow. So maybe this give and it shall be given idea is not just some feel-good saying.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, like maybe Anne taking the initiative, it actually created some space for them to connect in a new way.
That's a great way to put it. But I think it's important to zoom out a bit here.
Okay, zoom out. I'm following.
Because this whole idea of loving the unlovely, it's not just about fixing broken marriages.
Right. There's got to be a broader application here.
Exactly. We've all encountered unlovely people in our lives.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Right. So think about it. Maybe it's a difficult coworker always undermining you.
Ugh, yeah. I know the type.
Or maybe it's a family member who just, sucks the energy out of every room.
Oof, I feel that one.
So are you suggesting we shower these people with love and affection? Wouldn't that be rewarding bad behavior?
It's a good point. I mean, you don't want to be doormat, right?
Exactly. It's not about condoning bad behavior. It's about being a force for positive change, even when the other person isn't meeting us halfway.
So maybe it's more about changing our own mindset.
Right. Instead of thinking they need to change, we ask ourselves, what can I do to improve this dynamic?
I like that. So it's not about being passive. It's about taking a more, I don't know, maybe strategic approach.
Exactly. And it starts with trying to understand their perspective.
Okay, so step into their shoes a little bit.
Right. What might be driving their unlovely behavior? Could it be insecurity, feeling unheard? Maybe their own love tank is running on empty?
That's an interesting thought. Makes me think about Anne again and how her faith was such a big part of her motivation.
Yeah, that's true. The chapter does draw a lot from biblical principles.
So do you think this whole loving the unlovely thing, does it only work if you're coming from a religious perspective?
That's a great question. I mean, yes, the chapter talks a lot about loving your enemies like Jesus taught.
Right.
But the core ideas like understanding love languages and choosing to act lovingly, those can apply to anyone.
I'm glad you clarified that. Because I think that quote, give, and it will be given to you, that resonates with a lot of people, regardless of their beliefs.
Absolutely. It speaks to this universal human truth that we tend to respond to kindness.
Yeah, like kindness breeds kindness.
Right. And while it's not a guaranteed outcome, especially with those truly unlovely people, it's a powerful principle to consider.
Okay, so let's say our listener is thinking, all right, I'm on board, but how do I actually put this into practice? What advice would you give them?
Well, first, identify that unlovely person in your life.
The one who's causing you the most grief.
Exactly. The one who triggers those feelings of stress, frustration, or distance.
Okay, and then what?
Try to understand their love language. What makes them feel truly seen, appreciated, loved?
Right, because what fills my love tank might not work for someone else.
Exactly. We all experience love differently.
So once you have a sense of their love language, even if it's just a hunch, you start speaking it.
Right. Make a conscious effort to fill their tank, even if yours feels empty.
I can see how that would be a real challenge.
It can be, for sure.
And how do we balance this loving approach with protecting ourselves? especially if this person has really hurt us.
That's where boundaries come in. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over you.
Right. It's not about being a martyr.
It's about being kind and respectful while also being clear about your own limits.
Okay, so boundaries are key. But what about forgiveness? That feels like a huge part of this.
You're absolutely right. Forgiveness is essential, but it's not about condoning their actions or pretending everything's okay.
Right.
It's about releasing the bitterness and resentment that's holding us back.
That sounds so much easier said than done.
It definitely is. It takes time. But remember, forgiveness isn't a feeling, it's a choice.
A choice.
And sometimes that choice is the first step towards healing, both for ourselves and the relationship.
You know, this whole deep dive is really making me think about love in a new light. It's less about finding the easy answers and more about embracing the complexity.
You got it. Sometimes the biggest changes come when we're willing to wrestle with the tough questions.
I bet our listener is feeling that same challenge, maybe even a little discomfort.
It's heavy stuff, for sure.
But I think it's the good kind of discomfort, the kind that helps us grow.
I agree. This deep dive is about empowering you to be a more conscious lover, even when things are tough.
Love that. So are we ready for that final thought-provoking question, the one that'll send our listener off on their own deep dive?
I think we are. You ready?
Hit me with it. Hit me with it.
All right, so here it is. Could focusing on meeting your partner's needs, even when you feel unloved, actually be the key to unlocking a more fulfilling relationship?
Whoa, okay. That's a big one.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, and to be honest, it feels kind of counterintuitive. Like, don't we usually hear that we need to prioritize getting our own needs met first?
Yeah, that's the usual advice, right?
Huh.
But what if by putting our partner's needs first, we actually create this like ripple effect that ends up benefiting both of us?
I see what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
like that given it shall be given thing, but specifically applied to relationships.
Exactly. And I want to be clear, it's not about neglecting our own needs or being a martyr.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true love, a truly fulfilling relationship, it takes two.
Okay.
When we focus on giving, on speaking our partner's love language, we create an environment where reciprocity can flourish.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those situations where it feels like we're always the ones giving, always trying to fill the other person's tank? Like, what if our partner just isn't reciprocating?
That's a tough situation. And I think it's important to acknowledge that this approach, it's not a magic solution. It's not a guaranteed fix for every problem.
Right.
It takes effort from both sides. If you're feeling constantly drained, unappreciated, like you're always giving and not receiving, then it might be time to have an honest conversation.
With your partner.
Yeah, about your needs and expectations.
So communication is key.
Absolutely. It's not about suffering in silence and hoping they'll just magically figure it out.
Right. We got to speak up.
Exactly. And sometimes that open, honest dialogue, that's the first step towards creating a more balanced and fulfilling dynamic.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into loving the unlovely, what's your biggest takeaway?
You know, for me, it comes down to this: love is a verb. It's not just a feeling. It's a choice we make every day in how we interact with others.
I love that love is a verb. It's active, it's intentional,
Yeah.
it's something we do, not just something we feel.
Right. And this approach, it's all about taking ownership of our role in creating loving relationships. It's not always easy, but the potential rewards the possibility of transforming those difficult dynamics. That's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. A deep dive into loving the unlovely. We've explored the challenges of navigating those tough relationships, the power of understanding each other's love languages, and the transformative potential of choosing to love, even when it feels impossible.
Remember, this episode is just the beginning. We've planted some seeds now. It's up to you to cultivate them. Take a look at those challenging relationships in your own life. Consider the needs of the other person. And remember, even the smallest acts of love can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep choosing love.